Orchid Organization, a community-based organization to educate the public about health, presents to you today The Brain by Sarah, Yuchi, and Rashini. To start off the presentation, we are going to begin with the introduction of the brain. The brain, as we know, is the largest and most complex organ in the human body. It is a major component of the central nervous system, alongside the spinal cord. It's responsible for many bodily functions, which we'll get into more later in the presentation. About 86 billion neurons, or nerve cells, communicate in the brain to register sensory information, such as touch, taste, smell, sight, and sound. This is why you're able to recognize certain smells when you walk into a room. In addition, it also controls other regions of the body, including muscle movement and coordination. The brain is composed of several specialized areas and numerous lobes, which, once again, are responsible for different aspects of bodily functions, from walking to storing information.
The human brain can be divided into three areas, including the cerebrum, which is the largest component of the brain. It is made up of two hemispheres, left and right, separated by the longitudinal fissure. Meanwhile, the cerebellum is a component of the brain that receives information via the nervous system and is crucial for coordinating voluntary physical movement and motor activity. The brainstem relays messages between the brain and the rest of the body, as well as controls basic and essential biological functions such as breathing, blood pressure, heart rate, and swallowing. The four lobes of the brain include the frontal lobe, which is important for some of the most advanced cognitive functions in humans, such as reasoning, planning, judgment, memory, and emotional expression. Damage to this lobe may induce changes in both an individual's mood and personality. The parietal lobe processes tactile sensory information from nerves, enabling humans to feel sensations such as pressure, touch, or pain. Damage to this lobe causes issues in an individual's visualization of spaces. The temporal lobe processes auditory information, allowing humans to hear the world around them as well as interpreting and understanding different languages. Damage to this lobe may result in difficulties while communicating and an impaired memory. The occipital lobe perceives and processes visual information from the eyes, enabling humans to see as well as understand what they are seeing. Damage to this lobe can cause total loss of vision or hallucinations. The cranial nerves include 12 pairs of nerves originating from the brain, transmitting information from sense organs or controlling muscles, glands, and organs within the human body. Each one is named for their specific function. Neurons are specialized cells that receive and transmit information between other cells in the form of chemical or electrical signals. They form the basis of the human nervous system, and there are several billion of them located in the human brain. Neurons use neurotransmitters as signaling molecules for communication across synapses, the short gap between neurons. There are also three different types of neurons: sensory neurons, motor neurons, and interneurons. Glia are non-neuronal cells present throughout the human nervous system, including the brain and spinal cord. They cannot transmit nerve signals because they are incapable of generating action potentials. However, they instead provide valuable support for neurons, enabling them to properly function. There are several types of glial cells, each specialized for specific roles. Some types of glial cells include Schwann cells, oligodendrocytes, microglial cells, ependymal cells, and astrocytes.
Now we're going to be moving on to functions of the brain. The first function of the brain is that it receives information from the nervous system. Neurons, or nerve cells, relay information throughout the human body via neurotransmitters, or a chemical substance. Information reaches the brain through neurons and neurotransmitters in order to be processed. The second function of the brain is that it assembles or organizes messages. Nodes present in the brain represent concepts, and nodes are linked based on their relatedness. This is known as the semantic network model. An example of this is that when you think of the word chair, it's linked to table, which is linked to wooden, and so on and so forth. Essentially, there are semantic neighborhoods, categories of things that are similar to each other or related. It is also important to note that there is not one universally accepted theory of how our brain assembles or organizes information. The second model of how our brain assembles information is known as the connectionist model. A piece of knowledge is represented by a pattern of neuronal activation, not meaning. In other words, we connect words based on appearances, not their meaning. The third function of the brain is that it stores information in our memory. Memories are stored as structural and functional changes at synapses. Long-term memories, specifically, are stored in the brain in the form of synapses, the connections between neurons. As synaptic connections are strengthened, memory formation occurs, or new synapses are formed. Finally, the fourth function of the brain is that it controls and coordinates actions. Different components of the brain control different activities. The cerebrum, which is the largest part of the brain, is responsible for higher function thinking, such as reading, learning, and planned muscle movement. The cerebellum, which is located under the cerebrum, is responsible for balance, coordination, and muscle control. Finally, the brainstem, which connects the cerebrum and the cerebellum to the spinal cord, is responsible for many automatic functions, including breathing, heartbeat, and blood pressure.
Neurological diseases and disorders. So first there's Alzheimer's disease, which is the progressive disease that damages memory and other important mental functions. Some tests that can help diagnose this disease include MRI and CT scans. Epilepsy is another neurological disorder, and it's basically when nerve cell activity in the brain is interrupted and it causes seizures. Some tests that can help diagnose this is EEG, CT, MRI, PET scans, and SPECT scans. Multiple sclerosis is when the immune system damages the protective covering of nerves, and no specific test is available to diagnose this disease. Next, we have Parkinson's disease, which is the disorder of the central nervous system that affects movements, and there's also no specific test available to diagnose this disease.
Finally, here are the references we used throughout this presentation. Thank you for listening, and if you enjoyed this video and learned more stuff about the brain, please leave a like down below and subscribe to our channel.